Hello and Merry Christmas to those that celebrate. I am so excited for this episode. This is the first time I have ever created an episode like this. And what we're going to be doing is sharing a few MSing Link members' feedback on how the MSing Link, which is my online wellness program, how that has been helping them so far. And some of the people you're going to hear from have only been a member for a month or two, whereas others have been members for 3 years. And I wanted to really pull back the curtains, and I want you to hear from these MSing Link members exact examples of how their life has changed from being consistent with MSing Link exercises and the principles. And not only that, but after you hear from each MSing Link member, I am then going to share with you which exercises and strategies they've been implementing to see those results. So my hope is that through listening to this episode, you not only are going to feel encouraged and excited and motivated that these types of improvements are possible for you too, but also that you'll know what you need to do to see these types of results. And of course, MS is different for everyone. It would be very unfair of me to just put this blanket statement out there like, if you do this plan, it's going to work in the same way that it worked for Debi or whoever it might be that you're hearing from. So I don't want to put that out there, but I do just want to share that so many MSing Link members are noticing these same improvements or very similar improvements that you're going to hear from the three people that are going to share them with you today. So these are not just three isolated experiences. Results like what you're about to hear are extremely common in the MSing Link. So while MS is different for everyone, there are specific exercises and strategies that help the majority of people with MS. And the reason for that is because MS tends to attack specific muscle groups. And so if we can target those areas first and then go from there, you're going to set yourself up for success. And before I dive into Debi's feedback, I do just want to let you know, in case this is the first time that we are meeting each other, that the MSing Link is my online program that has MS-specific physical therapy-based exercises to help with things like getting stronger, walking better, improving your balance, making your daily activities easier. And inside the program, there's not just exercises, but also calendars that tell you exactly which exercises to do each day. So there's no guesswork. You are given an exact plan of what to do. We also have live exercise classes each week. We have live Q&As where you get to have your questions answered. And we bring in an MS expert every single month so you can get your questions answered from people in the MS world outside of physical therapy, like neurologists, pelvic floor physical therapists, dietitians and nutritionists, etc. And of course, there's an accountability group as well, which you're going to hear from Sophia. But let's just go ahead and dive in.
I found Dr. Gretchen and the MSing Link a little over 3 years ago, and it was when I was first diagnosed. My doctor sent me to a physical therapist, and I went and I did get stronger. I definitely was stronger, and my balance improved. We worked on a lot on that, but I didn't feel like my walking was better. I struggled to walk. Previously, I walked 2 or 3 miles several times a week. That was my favorite form of exercise, was walking. But after being diagnosed, I couldn't walk without the use of trekking poles or a cane. I really couldn't even stand without leaning on a counter or always looking for, where's the closest chair. So that's what I was hoping to improve. I didn't know if it was possible or not. Before I started the MSing Link, I would push myself to the point of exhaustion, push myself as hard as I could. I'd be dragging my leg, and I learned right off when I joined that was the wrong thing to do. You need to walk with good quality, and when your quality starts to go, you can push yourself a little bit, but don't keep going. You need to stop and rest, whether that's for 10 minutes or the next day. You need to keep the quality good. Otherwise, you're teaching your brain bad habits. She also taught us to do the thing that's hard. That's always in my mind. And For me, mostly that was walking in close spaces, which she had exercises that were specifically for that, just navigating tight spaces, and also uneven surfaces. When I would get on a grass or sidewalk or dirt, my brain would just freeze. I was not able to do it at all. And she said, do the thing that's hard. So I got my trekking poles and I practiced over and over, and eventually it got easier. And my goal was to walk longer distances, and it took a long time. It was a lot of consistent work and time, and doing the other exercises to build up my strength and my confidence. But about 2 years in, I was able to walk 2 miles. I used my trekking poles, and then slowly I was able to get to where if there wasn't a lot of uneven surfaces, I could do that without the trekking poles. So I'm very happy with my progress, and I'm hoping it will continue. I've had a lot of success, so I'm very grateful to the MSing Link.
It has been such an incredible honor working with Debi. Debi is such a bright light in our MSing Link community. She is always on the live calls with a bright, shining smile. I always get so excited to see her. And it's just a true testament to how consistent she has been with these exercises and with the plan that we've developed. Just listening to her recap on how prior to having MS, she was able to walk 2 to 3 miles several times per week, to then being diagnosed with MS, which then meant that she couldn't not just walk 2 to 3 miles, but she couldn't even stand without holding on to furniture or some type of stable surface. To now, after being in the MSing Link, and she's been in the MSing Link 3 years now, but just 2 years into the MSing Link, is when she started noticing that she could walk longer distances. And even as long as the surfaces weren't too crazy, too uneven, she can walk those 2 miles without trekking poles. And I think it's such great feedback to hear, because so often, if you're exercising for 2 years, or even let's just say 1 year or a year and a half, and you're just making small improvements here and there, you might feel like, oh, this isn't working for me. But if you stay consistent, Debi is a true testament to staying consistent and really noticing those improvements, even though it did take 2 years to get back to walking those 2 miles without the trekking poles. So consistency is key. Huge shout out to Debi, but let's get into exactly what she has been doing to get these types of results that she's mentioning. First and foremost, I asked Debi what specific exercises, if any, does she attribute to her success with walking better and standing longer. And she had mentioned the exercises of ankle dorsiflexion, which is an exercise that focuses on strengthening the front of your ankle. It's a great one for everyone who has foot drop. She also mentioned leg kicks, which is an exercise that strengthens your quadricep muscles and your hamstring muscles, and marching, which is the exercise to build up your hip flexors. And I'm not surprised that she said those 3, because those 3 exercises, ankle dorsiflexion, leg kicks, and marching, are a staple that I give every single patient that I work with. And I've been giving those 3 to every patient that I've worked with MS for the last 11 years. Those 3 are just non-negotiables for me. And Debi did say that she felt that those 3 really helped to build up the strength that then eventually led to improved walking. But she then mentioned that to get where she really wanted to go, to not just walking better and standing longer, but walking 2 miles and standing through the length of an Elton John concert, it wasn't just those strengthening exercises. She also started implementing the exercises that are on one of the calendars in the MSing Link called Balance and Walking. And in there, she specifically focused on the exaggerated walking exercise, the bridesmaid walk exercise, walking slow, and there's a special class that we have in the MSing Link called Foot Mobility During Gait. And what this class focuses on is the mobility that we need in our ankle and our toes to actually walk more effectively and more efficiently. So those were the exercises that she felt allowed her to walk further and faster with less fatigue. If you're not in the MSing Link, hopefully this doesn't sound like gibberish. I'm going to try to do my best to explain what the exercises are. But if you are in the MSing Link, you can just use the search bar and go search for all of these exercises, or you can go to our calendar section and find these calendars that I'm referring to. Just to recap on those exercises, the exaggerated walking is a specific exercises where you exaggerate each component of walking, like shifting your body weight forward, bending your knee, lifting your ankle, bringing your knee up towards the ceiling, straightening your knee, putting your heel down first, and while that was happening, standing on one leg. Then the bridesmaid walk is all about walking slower and adding balance into your walking. The faster we walk, the less balance we need. So going slow is if you're walking like a bridesmaid. I actually came up with the name of this exercise during one summer where I was a bridesmaid in 3 of my friends' weddings. And I felt like walking slow down an aisle was such a great exercise for people with MS because you take a step and pause, and then take a step and pause, and it incorporates single leg balance in such a great way. So that's the bridesmaid walk. And then walking slow not only makes balance more challenging, but it really points out exactly which muscles are weakest for you. Then, once you determine that, you can go to the strengthening exercises and focus on the exercises for that specific muscle or movement that is weakest. Another exercise that Debi found in the MSing Link that she felt was a really, really helpful exercise was one called turning around safely. This is an exercise in the MSing Link where I demonstrate how to turn around safely without feeling like you're going to fall over. So often when we have to turn around or turn over a corner, we turn with this one big swoop because it doesn't require lifting our legs as much. But so often that can cause a trip or feeling of dizziness or unsteadiness, and we end up having to reach for something. So in this video, I discuss the best strategy to turn around using mini steps. The last thing that I want to share about Debi and how she achieved these amazing results within the MSing Link is that she didn't just focus on the exercises. A big focus in the MSing Link is exercise, of course, but there's also strategies that should be implemented into your day. For example, one strategy is always quality over quantity. Prior to the MSing Link, Debi would just push through, even if that meant she'd be super fatigued and walking worse after that. She now learned quality was more important than quantity. So she would stop. She'd take more rest breaks. She wouldn't push herself to the point of fatigue. Just knowing that concept alone and that strategy alone can make a huge difference in your exercise routine. She additionally mentioned that she became aware of 2 bad habits and immediately worked towards not doing those bad habits anymore. For example, one of the bad habits is walking in your home or anywhere, but while you're walking, you're constantly touching something, a wall, a piece of furniture, another human that's next to you. And the more you do that, the more you're training your brain that it's okay to reach for things, that your body requires you to touch something in order to walk safely. And so we want to break that bad habit. So that is another strategy that Debi became aware of from the MSing Link, and she immediately implemented the concept of not touching those things and working on the strength and balance exercises to allow her to do that safely. And she also mentioned the concept and strategy of doing the thing that's hard. This is something that she attributes a lot of her success to, and I think it's such a good one because so often when something is hard, we don't do it, we avoid it. But doing the thing that's hard, in Debi's case, grabbing her trekking poles and practicing walking on the grass has led her to now to be able to walk on grass, sometimes without even trekking poles, whereas that wouldn't have even crossed her mind when she was first diagnosed. So implementing these strategies and concepts, they're not specific exercises, but just the strategies throughout her day has additionally led her to seeing these results that she's seen. Okay, so we are going to move on to MSing Link member Maria. Here's what she had to say.
Before I started with the MSing Link, climbing upstairs was a huge challenge for me. I was walking up one step at a time, and even at times using my hands on the steps to get all the way up. But after doing the MS exercises, especially marching and weight shifting, I'm able to walk up the stairs upright. Also, because of those exercises, I'm able, for the most part, to put on a pair of pants standing up. And that's a huge win for me.
So Maria has been in the MSing Link for 5 months now. However, she reported these improvements after just 2 months of the MSing Link, which really goes to show you the power of just doing the exercises that your body needs. And the way that we determine that in the MSing Link is through not just the exercise calendars, but also the Q&A. We have a monthly Q&A session where you get to ask me your questions and I can help you troubleshoot. So if an exercise is too easy or too hard, we can make modifications. If you're wondering what exercises to do for a certain goal or symptom, we can review that. But we also have exercise classes. So this is a full routine. They range anywhere from 20 to 40 minutes that are on specific topics, such as if you have a goal of climbing the stairs, this is an exercise class where every exercise will help you with that goal, or a specific symptom. So if you're working on balance, this exercise class will help with balance. We also have something in the MSing Link called the index. And this is where you'd go to find specific individual exercises to help with specific goals or symptoms. So it should be very clear which exercises you should do based on what symptoms you have and what goals you're working towards. And one of Maria's biggest improvements have been with climbing stairs and also putting on pants. And I love these improvements because for a lot of people, getting dressed, putting on pants, standing up is something that a lot of us take for granted. But when you have MS and when that has been taken away from you due to weakness and poor balance, getting that back, I feel like it's just immeasurable. Someone else, I think, said this perfectly. Another MSing Link member, Alexis, had said that she too can now put her pants on. And she says, what this has added to my dignity is immeasurable. And it's just being able to do those simple things that weren't so simple due to MS can make you feel so much more empowered and confident and strong and like you're getting your life back. So when I talked to Maria about which exercises she felt helped her the most, she had said marching, which again is one of those exercises, is my non-negotiables for everyone that I work with. That is our hip flexor exercise to strengthen the hip flexor. And Maria was doing this in a seated position and standing. So when you're sitting up tall, both feet are on the floor, you lift one knee up as high as you can off the floor, then slowly lower it down, then do the same thing on the other side. And in standing, it's the same thing. You're standing, you can hold on to something if you need to. You lift one leg up and down, and then the other leg up and down. And then she also mentioned weight shifting. And weight shifting is key for climbing stairs and getting dressed and walking. In order to do any of those activities, we need to be able to shift our weight off of one leg so that we can then lift it up to put pants on or lift it up to advance to the next step. And then shift our weight over to that leg and lift the opposite leg up. So this weight shifting side to side and in a staggered stance, those are two exercises in the MSing Link that play a big role in improving not just your balance, but functional balance, meaning balance while you're moving and doing daily activities. And from these two exercises, she was able to build enough strength in her hip flexors and balance where she doesn't need to use her hands to lift her legs or use her hands so aggressively on the railing to pull herself up. That's something that I see frequently when I'm first working with someone who has MS. When they're climbing the stairs, they grab onto the railing and their arms are so sore when they climb stairs because their arms are doing all the work. So Maria was able to prevent that from even happening by getting her legs stronger and working on balance. Last but not least, let's move on to Sophia. Here's what she had to say.
Prior to the MSing Link, you wouldn't have been able to see any of my impairments. I mean, even I would sometimes forget about my diagnosis. I was completely independent and working as a healthcare professional and mom of very young kids. However, I did have some physical challenges, such as tingling and loss of sensation to my finger pads and the occasional mild foot drop to my right leg whenever I was sick or extremely fatigued. This was until my two major relapses, which were 2 weeks apart in July of 2023. I officially became a member of the MSing Link in November of 2023, when Dr. Gretchen had one of her Black Friday promotions. Ironically, I had discovered her and her program 3 months prior to my relapse in July of 2023, when I had discovered her YouTube channel and her Instagram page. I began to follow her thinking one day her education and the information that she was sharing would become useful. She was the first place I came looking after my relapse. I just knew I had to join her online wellness program because there was so much to gain. Since being a member, I've learned so much. Despite being diagnosed almost 11 years ago, it's as if I never really knew anything about MS until I began learning with her and all the amazing resources within her program. I've had all kinds of improvements by implementing the exercises within the MSing Link. It's now easier to do house chores, such as laundry, with all the squatting and reaching motions. It's also easier to stand and wash my dishes. It's easier to stand up from a chair or get out of bed. My balance is still something I continue to work on, but it's gotten easier to shift my weight. My newest and biggest accomplishments have been being able to walk on grass and walking around my house in socks without feeling as unstable as I used to. I'm excited to see what other improvements I have within this program, the new things that I learn, and the new friends that I continue to make.
When I listen to Sophia's improvements, and not just hers, but Debi's and Maria's and everyone in the MSing Link, I wish I could put into words how my heart feels. What I get to do to help these people get their life back and just feel like they're in more control and like they're on the upswing and getting stronger and walking better and giving them that confidence. It is my greatest honor. I feel so fortunate to be able to help in such an impactful way. So my heart is just smiling so big right now after listening to Debi, Maria, and Sophia. But let's get into which specific exercises Sophia felt were the most impactful that led her to having an easier time doing household chores like laundry and washing dishes while standing up from a chair, getting out of bed, walking on uneven surfaces like grass, or walking around her home feeling more stable. There are quite a few, but some of them we've already talked about. So I'll mention those ones first. The ankle dorsiflexion, the marching, the weight shifting, exaggerated walking, and bridesmaid walking. Those were 5 of the exercises that we've already discussed that she felt has made a big impact in all of these improvements that she's seeing. In addition to those, she mentioned the squatting exercise, so squats, bridges, clamshell, and we have a seated clamshell exercise in the MSing Link, which is great it's a little bit more functional than the typical side lying exercise. So the seated clamshell, you're sitting in your chair towards the edge of your chair. Your feet are together and your knees are together. Everything's touching. Then you open your knees as wide as you can go without your feet separating from one another. At the end of the movement, once your knees are as wide as you can go, you squeeze your glute muscles, your bum muscles, and then relax them and then close them. So that's a seated clamshell, and it allows you to activate your glute muscles. Our glutes are a huge part of our core. And so it allows you to activate those muscles from a seated position. That translates to using those muscles when you're standing way more than doing that exercise on a sideline position when you're lying on the side. So that seated clamshell is one that she attributes a lot of her success to, in addition to cone taps. So cone taps is an exercise that we haven't talked about yet. This is an exercise in the MSing Link where you lift your leg and you place your heel on the top of an item, in this case, a cone. But actually, in the MSing Link, I didn't use a cone, I used an olive oil bottle. So everything in the MSing Link, every exercise is done in my home that I was living in at the time. And everything is super accessible. You don't need any equipment or weights or anything like that. You just need daily household things like a chair and a couch. And in this specific exercise, something like an olive oil bottle or even a Post-it note, something that you can lift your leg up and then tap that thing with your heel. And this is a phenomenal exercise for lots of reasons. One reason being it works on improving your strength and your balance, but it also works on proprioception, which is your ability to put your foot where you want it to go versus having your foot just land wherever it lands, which often results in walking like you're drunk. It has that appearance. So that cone tap exercise is one that Sophia really enjoyed. She also mentioned that something that made a big difference in her seeing all these improvements is not just the individual exercises that we've talked about thus far and are in the exercise calendars, but specifically doing the exercise classes. Those exercise classes are an opportunity to build upon one exercise after another, but also learn some new exercises. So she had mentioned that she really enjoyed a new way of bending the knee that we did in one of our recent classes. I have been thinking about this exercise for a while, and so I finally presented it to my MSing Link members, and they absolutely loved it. And she felt that it's made a big difference in allowing her to bend her knee more when walking. She is also doing an exercise that we have in the program called running/jumping/hopping. And basically, what this exercise video demonstrates is how to build up strength, endurance, and speed so that your walking isn't just easier, but you're also able to get back to jumping and hopping and maybe even running. This is so important for people who want to do daily activities, as silly as it might sound, even just like running after kids or grandkids. And you heard Sophia mention she has several kids. So she needs to be able to stay up to their speed and run after them. So she's starting to implement this exercise as well. And similar to Debi, Sophia isn't just focusing on these exercises, but also working on implementing the concepts and strategies that we talk about in the MSing Link, specifically with changing her walking speeds, because she wants to be able to walk slow and walk fast and also go back and forth between the two. Again, she has kids. They don't just walk at the same speed every time they're walking. So she's focusing on changing her walking speeds at home and practicing turning safely, since balance is a major issue for her. So similar to Debi, that exercise of practicing turning around in a safe way versus just quick, let's get it done. And that often leads to feeling even more unbalanced. The last thing that Sophia mentioned to me when I asked her what specific exercises and strategies have led to your biggest improvements was that she takes my advice to rest when her body needs it. And I think that's so powerful. So often, whether it makes sense to us logically or not, our bodies need rest, and our bodies often will let us know. And listening to that and allowing yourself to rest guilt-free can help you reach your goals significantly. It is not always about exercising every single day and doing all these exercises and the classes. Rest is equally as important. I hope after hearing the results that Debi, Maria, and Sophia have shared with you today, I hope it gives you that excitement that this can be possible for you too, with the right exercises and the right strategies and concepts. If you don't have that in your life right now and you need that, you need the resources to tell you what to do, the MSing Link is going to be such a great fit for you, not just the program, but the community as well. And Sophia mentioned that in her feedback, that she's made so many friends and she's excited to continue to make more. Our community is so supportive and can help with accountability and have your questions answered from veteran members and feel less alone. I will put a link in the show notes where you can learn more about the MSing Link to see if it is a good fit for you. And if you do join, I would highly encourage that you get into our community and you go to our Facebook group where everyone is sharing their wins, because we have so many people that are experiencing wins and results just like Debi, Maria, and Sophia. And it is possible for you. And I think surrounding yourself with other people who are putting in the work and getting those results can be so empowering and motivating. And if you don't join the MSing Link, if it's not a good fit for you right now, I hope that this episode was able to give you some exercise ideas and suggestions that can, at the very least, give you a starting point. Thank you for tuning in today, and thank you to Debi, Maria, and Sophia for sharing your results and inspiring so many people. I hope you have a wonderful holiday season, and I'll see you next year.